League of Conservative Education School Board Candidates Forum today. This agenda today is we want everybody to be able to listen to the candidates and be able to ask them questions. None of the questions here are going to be filtered, and if you have a question, you're going to be able to raise your hand and the mic will come to you. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for opening statements. They'll share their background, why they want to represent our community as a member of the Alpena Public School Board. 7:20 to 8:15 will be audience questions, and the moderating procedure will be the audience participant will state their name and address and ask one question. The moderator may repeat the question for clarity. Each candidate will be given up to 2 minutes to answer each question. The audience participant will be allowed one follow-up question. Each candidate will again respond. The process will continue with other audience participants. After all audience participants have had the opportunity to ask a question, prior participants may again ask an additional question as time allows. Each candidate will be allowed 2 to 3 minutes for closing remarks at 8:15, and the forum concludes with remarks at 8:30. Thank you for coming, and we'll get ready to start. Dennis Schultz will be the moderator. Dennis? Okay.
Thank you, Bruce. There was a little ring, but maybe it'll go away now. There's a little ring in the sound. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Most of all, let's thank our candidates, Sarah and Eric and Monica. As I said to them earlier, they've been preparing their whole life for this. Their parents, the rest is easy. You make it through raising kids, and in the process, you're busy kids. And it's the best part of life, by the way, and I think that's why these folks are interested in helping our system and helping our parents, and most of all, helping our teachers going into the future, so that they're the ones that need the most support in this crazy new world we live in. So with that said, I'll give each of them their 2 or 3 minutes. I'm not a dictator, so if you slip over a couple of seconds, I don't even have a clock. So I don't know, you want us to go who's first? Should we go by age? We'll go from left to right and stop all that nonsense. Go ahead,
right.
Monica Dziesinski, you're on the floor.
So I'm Monica Dziesinski. I was born here. I was a Wilson Wildcat and graduated from Alpena High School in 2004. After that, I went to college at Baker College in Owasso for my radiology degree. So I was an X-ray tech down in Dearborn for a while. From there, I cross-trained in CAT scan. I still hold my radiology and CAT scan certificates. I went to Siena Heights for my bachelor's in radiology and a minor in healthcare administration. After that, I worked down in CT for a while at Oakwood Hospital and decided to go back to school and become a PA. So I was accepted into the PA program at Central Michigan University, where I received that master's degree. From there, I've been a PA now for 13 years. I'm currently working at the Alpena High School Health Center. My husband, Adam, is also a graduate of Alpena High School. He graduated in 2003. We have 2 wonderful children, aged 6 and 9, that love to fight. So we are very busy, but I'm super excited to take on this role. I really want to help the community's children. Our test scores are not good. Our proficiencies are not good. I grew up here. I went to Alpena High School. I want Alpena High School to succeed. I want our academics better. I want safety for our children. I want the staff and teachers to feel like they have what they need to help our children. So that is why I'm running for school board.
Very good. Thank you. Eric, you're next.
Okay, can you hear me okay? Is my mic up? Not quite. Testing. Should I move it up? Move it up here? Any better?
No.
Not quite.
Would you like to borrow mine?
I don't think I've disconnected it.
No, it's working.
Are we there yet? Move it up, maybe we should move it up here. Oops. Oh wait.
You can hear that.
Yeah, sounds like something's going on. Is that any better?
No?
Not quite. There.
Still dial in.
I mean, I can tell that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it?
We got it? Is that, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'll try to use my teacher voice a little bit. Okay. All right, Dennis, press the timer. Anyway, my name is Eric Lawson. I am a sitting school board member. I think most of you are probably aware of my activities to some degree, so I'm going to dispense with the typical introduction, except to highlight that I've got some really kooky things in my resume, such as while I was a professor, I gave concerts and classes in places like Shanghai Normal University, the University of Transylvania in Brașov, Romania. Yes, there really is a University of Transylvania, and as well as several colleges in Brazil, which is to say that I know just how big the world that we're sending our kids out into actually is, and not just as a tourist. So, what have I done for you lately? I exposed and revealed as a board member that there were boys in the girls' bathrooms already, way before anybody thought so. That the Gay-Straight Alliance was active, but not in the list of clubs, effectively hiding its existence from parents. There were private communications from the board president to the board, potentially in violation of the Open Meetings Act, including an argument that as trustees, we don't actually represent the people who elected us. I helped stop a resolution that proclaimed that our community is racist and that DEI and anti-racism must be implemented in our schools. Anti-racism is basically racism forever against anyone who disagrees with that ideology. As for my efforts, I was accused of bringing politics into the schools. So which is more political? To push an agenda of new and experimental policies on the children, or to resist these very partisan initiatives? When one sees incompetence and corruption, a sensible person typically hesitates to follow, or might even actively oppose such dangerous policies. And that's where we are today. I say the following to make a point. At the state level, we have disarray in our public mental health system. Time and time again, the state has refused to listen to the people running the system and has made changes that make no sense. It's possible this administration is continuing to push the privatization of our mental health system, despite truly nonpartisan opposition. When I made a comment about this in a recent meeting, a person who self-identified as a liberal asked, what could we do as voters to remedy the situation? I said, it's simple, vote for a new administration. At which point it was insinuated that I was the one who was political. Nationally, we have all-out war in the Middle East, an economy-crushing dock workers' strike. We have children being mutilated and poisoned because the adults in their lives want to virtue signal that they are allies or something. And in education, colleges are hiring ideological administrators without restraint. And in K-12, there's a push to take over the role of parents, it's called community schools, to the detriment of traditional priorities like academic excellence and civic competence. Now, keep in mind, I'm talking about national initiatives and generalities. I'm not necessarily pointing fingers at the people in our own school district. So when I say that, when I see people go off the rails this far, when people in power go off the rails, I feel inspired to shun this example. And this is not out of a spirit of partisanship, but rather common sense. And that's why I'm glad to be here at a forum hosted by an organization with common sense, which is also honest about what it is. So instead of claiming to be nonpartisan while posting radical positions and agendas on social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawson. Sarah Costain, you're next.
Hi, I'm Sarah Costain. I am an Oscoda graduate. I graduated in 2007. My husband and I, my husband moved here a year before I did, and I came here following him. He is not from here. He married me for my green card, or for his green card. But no, we have 6 children. We actually have our 6th child on the way. Our little girl will be born in December. We have a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 5, 4, and 3-year-old. right now, all our children do attend All Saints Catholic School. The reason why I really want to be on the school board is because our oldest child is aging out. He will be going to the high school next year, and then our other children will follow in the future. But yeah, I really do have a genuine desire to serve this community. I believe that I was led to help the children of APS. Our children are our future, and I want nothing but the very best for every single one of them.
Thank you. Thank you all three. So now, all of you fine folks get to ask them something they forgot to mention. So, that you're interested in. So, we have a roving microphone gentleman here. By the way, he's a Marine, so don't mess with him. And,
Michael's a rover too.
oh, another one over there, we have two of them. We're covered. So, first come, first serve, kids. Mr.
State your name. Where you're from.
My name is Tim Tarjeff. I'm from Sheboygan. And my question is, each week, how much of your time are you willing to invest doing an excellent job on the Alpena School Board?
Wow, Tim.
Well, I'll go first. I mean, honestly, I guess however much time it takes. I mean, I'm willing to put in, I mean, I know our life is crazy. We both work full time, me and my husband. We have 2 little kids, but I mean, I'm willing to stay up all night, put as much time in as I need, read on my lunch. I want to go out and actually see the school, see the bus garage, talk to the staff. So I'll put in as much time as it possibly takes. I can't really put a number on it.
Yeah, I feel similarly. I'm kind of semi-retired, and I don't try to plan too much. I'm in chemo right now, so I'm limited in, you know, how many really big activities I can do. But I can study, I can learn, I can go to my meetings, and I feel like I'm ready to put in another 4 years of solid work. It really depends too, as far as what the requirements are, as far as time. There are going to be weeks when you're going to be doing several hours a day, and then there are weeks when it's quieter. But yeah, I agree, Monica, you just put in the time that it takes because it's for the kids and it's really, really important.
So as of right now, with my children attending All Saints, I probably put in 10 to 30 hours a week volunteering at school and helping out. With that being said, one of those mothers actually who works for APS came and approached me this morning and said that have I ever went into an APS classroom, and honestly I have not. And then she said that it's so important for us to actually be there, and she says that right now she currently sees about 3 school board members who are currently, that they see at the school, and they don't see any of the other ones. So I see the importance of being there, and you know, you have to actually see it firsthand, and I'd definitely be willing to be there as much as possible, especially, I might be a helicopter mom, but I will be there making sure that everything's running smooth, and yeah, no, I will give as much time as it needs, absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, when you sit down, I gotta get around here. You have another question later.
My name is Shirley Torsch, and I have a granddaughter in Ella White School, 1st grade. Last week she brought home homework. It was on the vowels, A, E, I, O, and U. Fill in the blank. It was a page full of rainbows, which I had no problem with. And the first rainbow was 6 objects, so she put S-I-X. There was socks, saxophone. I forget what it was for the U, it wasn't. But this last one was an empty rainbow. The first letter was S, the last letter was X. The only vowel left was the E. I have a problem with my daughter looking up at a rainbow and thinking she's supposed to think of the word opposite sex. I'd like to know what your opinion is and what you'll do about it.
Thank you for the question. Let's start with Sarah this time at the other end. We'll mix it up a bit.
Yeah, no, I'm not even sure what to say about that. I definitely don't agree with that. I don't think that it's age appropriate at all for elementary school, middle school. I mean, it's just not something that needs to be said, addressed, or even put into children's minds. So I definitely don't agree with that. I don't stand for that, and I would do everything I can to make sure that no child is exposed to anything like that.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of this sort of stuff, the board, you have to remember, the board has sort of a 60,000-foot view as it looks down. And we don't really micromanage issues like this, but when these things come across our desk, as it were, it is important to look into it and understand what is, you also need the context of the lesson and everything, but I think sometimes these things happen, and maybe they're even a little bit innocent, maybe just somebody didn't think it through, but I think it is important. We need to let our administrators know that this is something we've got to look into. So that's where I begin with the administration, and it's a chance to dig down and see, okay, why did that really happen? The board does have broad powers, acting as a body. One of the things that we're supposed to do as part of the Michigan law, Public Act 451, is to set the curricula and courses. So again, we don't micromanage, but that is in our wheelhouse, so that when we see things like that, it's not inappropriate for us to act.
Thank you, Eric. Monica?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with both of them. I'm absolutely appalled that that would happen. I also have a first grader, and if he brought that paper home, I would be very upset. As Eric knows, I mean, I'm not on the board yet, so I don't know the whole procedure of everything, but I would assume, yeah, he would go to the administration first, and if they don't take care of it, work your way up to the board, but I think it definitely needs to be addressed, for sure.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Your name, please.
Bob Case. I have 4 children who graduated from Alpena, and I have 6 grandchildren in the system right now. So I have a high stake in this. By the way, SACS, SIX, and SOX also work with SNX, just to say that. It isn't just SEX. But the question is, you said some things that are very disturbing, that you knew that there were boys in the girls' bathrooms already. The question I have is, how do you know that? Where did you find out? And did you immediately go to the principal and talk with the principal and the instructors in that and find out exactly what happened? Or were you told this? Or how did you find out that there were boys in the girls' bathroom?
Directed at you, Larry.
How do you want to deal with questions like this if there's a specific question
Well, I
for somebody that you want me to respond? Because obviously they can't respond the same way.
Right, it'd be appropriate only for you to even answer it, but I don't know, I don't believe that we have any issue. If there's some factual things you can share.
You're
with
fine.
you.
If I handle that question?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
we're not trying to elevate you above them, you
Sure.
just have knowledge they don't.
Okay, so the first response when I asked, I didn't know anything when I came in. I thought that the voters had hired me to prevent exactly that, because people that I had spoken with were not comfortable at all with that. So when I first brought this up, the superintendent seemed to be unclear as to exactly what the situation was. I continued to press the issue because I was hearing things from people, and so I kept leaning on administration. And you will recall at one point there was a big meeting right out in front of the high school where administrators spoke precisely to this policy. It was at that point that I and everyone else learned that this was indeed going on and that the administration was okay with it. And continuing to press, because the board has not yet voted on this issue. I want to be really clear about that. The board as a body has not voted on this issue yet. It was done, after a while I kept pressing. How did this happen? How did this happen? Gordon Snow at one point finally did divulge to the board, because I think at that point he was the only one who had been on the board at that time. He said that John Van Wagener had done this administratively. There was an open meeting, but no one was there. And John Wagner had said that he was going to do this. Now, at the time, I do not believe there was any legal requirement to do this, but he decided that was what we were going to do, and the board just sort of, said, "Oh, okay." They didn't vote on it. They just, listened and received the information. And then the problem with that was there was no press in the room, or they didn't pick it up, and no one was there from the community, so no one knew. And in discussing with the superintendent in an open meeting, I said, well, I don't really think you could claim transparency when you did probably the most controversial thing that's ever been done in this county, and you didn't tell anyone. So that's how I found out, that's the history of it, and that's pretty much what I know.
Thank you. Does that answer your question? What a follow-up question?
Did you, excuse me, I'm just trying to clarify.
Mhm.
I still don't know how you found out exactly. And when you did and you found out what school, did you go to the administration? Did you go to
I was already dealing with the administration at the very highest levels. Megan Gauthier and David Rabideau, the superintendent, they informed me, and I took their word for it. I'm not making anything up. I went to the highest level to be as clear as possible. I was not, listening to innuendo or rumors. It was from the administration itself, and that's how I know it, and that's what happened. Very simple.
Thank you. Mr. Case, I can talk to you afterwards because I was at the meeting that was revealed as well. As a public, there was quite a few people there, but we'll talk afterwards. Other questions?
Bill Morford from Alpena. I believe Monica said this in her introduction, but probably all of you could respond to it. I think, Monica, I recall you saying that one of your interests is in making sure the teachers have what they need to be successful. I'm just wondering, what do you think it is that they need that they don't currently have? What are you thinking that you should try to get for them that they may not have right now in order to be effective?
There's a few, of course they can use different supplies, up-to-date supplies, that's one thing. But I think the biggest thing to make the teachers effective is to get rid of the distractions and the behavior problems. No teacher should have to sit there and have 20-some kids sit off to the side while they deal with one or two distractions. We need to have better discipline. Sending kids home for a day or two on suspension is not discipline. They get to go home and do whatever they want. So there needs to be something different for discipline. When I was in school, we had ISS, and I know kids absolutely hated that. So I don't know where that ended up going. But that would be something to look into. But I think if we can support them with administration and with discipline and with these behaviors of these kids, I think that will be huge in the success academically and for the teachers. Like I said, I'd like to see, visit the schools. What else do you need? What supplies do you need? I've also been doing a lot of checking through some of the salaries and stuff for the teachers. I think there needs to be a really good look at that. It seems like these teachers that start out aren't making what they should be making. And there are some staff there that honestly, they could go work at McDonald's and make more money. So I think we need to look at that too. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Anyone else want to?
Yeah, I can field that as well. It's interesting about salaries. We have to be careful with that because the agreement that's arrived at with the union basically spells out the step system. And so it could be that some of those teachers cannot make more than they're making. If the administration were to unilaterally say, oh golly, you're great, let's give you more money, the union would raise a fit, so they can't. But that's all got to be negotiated in the agreement. That's why those agreements are so important, because really good agreements make good neighbors, and so we have to make sure that that's all settled. I really liked Monica's comment though about taking away distractions. We're trying to get a little tougher on the cell phone policies this year. When this has been done in other schools nationally, the students don't seem to mind. They seem to like it. So we're going to continue to push in that direction. I also want to make sure that the teachers understand that their superintendent and their board fully support them in discipline, because I don't want them out there thinking that they can't take action on a discipline issue because they're not sure if their own board or superintendent is going to come after them. So they've got to follow protocols, absolutely, but we want them to know that we support them. And just briefly getting back to the issue of labor agreements and such, that is one of the reasons that we have to be very, very circumspect, I think, with our labor agreements and what we support, because we know that we're in a labor market. And, you know, I often like to, if I'm negotiating or looking at an issue like this, I try to make sure that we hold some kind of line and, you know, we protect the people and the taxpayers. But when you're in a labor market, you may not be able to really, you know, control that. You have a market that demands what it demands, and if you want to retain quality people, attract and retain quality people, you got to go where you got to go. So I really support finding the funds and resources to pay our teachers adequately so that they feel they have that support at every level.
Thank you, Mary. Sarah, you're on the end there. That doesn't mean you have to be quiet.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with what both of them say. But I think that also we're facing such a teacher shortage and just a shortage in general of our employees at the school. And I'm not sure how to fix that. I think that the salaries and stuff, that will absolutely help attract more people and qualified individuals. I know that there's step programs that we do gain teachers from it, but they're lengthy and they take time. But definitely, I feel that a lot of the teachers might struggle with like staffing shortages, and I think that would be a great way to help them, is really focusing, and I know that we are focusing on trying to get more staff, but definitely a main priority is getting more staff.
Thank you.
My name's Doug Pugh. A couple of days ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, I read, I think in the Alpena News, about the high truancy rates that are being experienced throughout the state. It must have been the Alpena News because they had the Alpena figure, which was a little higher than some of the other areas, but it's not just an Alpena problem, it's a statewide problem. And I'm trying to remember what the numbers were, but it was surprising that they were so high. I mean, we're talking a truancy rate of, I'm going to say 20%, something like that. And they defined chronic truancy as, my memory isn't what it used to be, but I'm going to say about 15 days of unexcused absence per year. But the point is,
What's your
truancy
question?
is
Yeah, just ask your question.
is high. And the question is, what do you think should be done about that?
Well, the school board actually talked about this at their last school board meeting, that there is, the state notice or doesn't look at it, they can't justify, like if it's I think they count it as not being absent if you're missing 50% of the day, is that correct? But I think that we might look at it different. There's a difference between unexcused absences and excused, and it's hard for the state, how we report it, to draw a line. So I think that it's a lot of figuring out what is excused and what's not excused, and what is acceptable. Like during the meeting, you talked about one of your children being sick and they missed 50 some days. So I think that I'm not sure if it's as high as what they say it is, just because of the different ways that the state reports it, but I'm not sure. That's actually more of a question for you.
Yeah, I could respond to that.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. The way the state reckons the absences, when you're absent for part of the day, they count that sometimes as like a whole day absence. So the truancy rate really isn't anywhere near that. And I think that our staff is doing a good job of trying to reach out to students, because we looked at a particular number and it was really, really high. And then I asked the superintendent to go through, okay, what do we do? So there are various levels of contact where the superintendent said that we have staff who will reach out to these families. And by the time we get through all of the things, like sometimes people leave the area and don't tell us. We have to find out, oh, these people are actually gone. But by the time we work through all those things, and then all the ways that we can work with those parents, it comes down to a much, much lower number. It doesn't look nearly as bad. So I feel like on that score, we're doing pretty well. But again, we want to support our administration and teachers to continue doing their very good work to lower that as low as it can get. I think maybe part of the problem is people are used to being at home, and after all those years of COVID where they could basically stay home and do whatever they wanted, they're not as motivated maybe to come to school. So we've got to make sure that they understand school's a good place. You got to be here. We're gonna do what we can to make it fun, and you're going to learn something.
Thank you, Mary. Monica?
Also, when I was watching last school board meeting, I believe sports were not included with that number. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you miss sports.
I think sports was part of that number.
It's still
too.
counted as an absence.
It's still counted as an absence in that number. That's why it seems so large too. And from what the superintendent was stating is Alpena does travel a lot more and a lot further than a lot of the surrounding cities. So that's understandable, but it just kind of set up a red flag in my head though too, because I would like to know with how much we travel, does that affect academics compared to the other little schools that don't have to go quite as far? So I just know that that would be something that I'd want to kind of look at and see if there's any studies in that with the sports travel, if that does affect academics. I know some of the best students are actually our athletes, but I'd like to take a look at that. But as far as back to the truancy goes, I think just keep reaching out to the parents and removing any barriers that they have to get these kids to school. I know busing was also a large issue. I mean, for these kids not to be able to get to school because they don't have a bus, I mean, that's a big deal, and that's something we need to figure out, so.
Thank you, good thoughts.
Irv Alexander, when these kids disrupt a class, the teacher has no control. She can't discipline. So why isn't it that the parents have to come and get that kid and take care of that problem? I think after once or twice, that kid would be pretty decent in class. When he upsets the class, the rest of them kids suffer.
Is there a question?
Yes, can that happen, that to cure it? Can the school require that to make the parents come and take care of a problem like that? The teacher can't do it.
Thank you.
From what I understand, they are calling the parent to come pick them up, but quite honestly, I think the problem is the parents aren't doing anything about it at home. So I think a lot of this is originating at home behaviors, and it's carrying over to school behaviors. I know a lot of parents that pick up students and not much really happens. They just get to sit on their iPad or iPhone and do whatever they want, and they go back to school in 2 days and nothing changes. I truly think an ISS or in-school suspension would be the way to go. Have these kids sit there with their homework in a little cubicle, and they have to sit there all day. I think they'll shape up a lot quicker, quite honestly. That's just my opinion.
You sound like a mom. Right?
Yes. Particularly when the discipline issue is with a student with an IEP or other issues, that can be very difficult, and the teacher's hands can be kind of tied as to what he or she can do. At Ella White, they have a new room where they're taking some of these kids and they're trying to put them together so that they're less disruptive in other courses. But we have to be careful about that because the state law requires that every student have access to in education. Basically, everybody gets the same education. So we're trying to find ways to mitigate those behavior issues and maybe give these kids another environment where they can be more successful. Yeah, it is true that when the parents come and pick them up, maybe sometimes nothing happens, or maybe the parent's overwhelmed. And this maybe is one reason that it's useful to have particularly the school success people in there to get with this kid and see if there are mitigating circumstances. They can understand where the child is coming from and maybe help that kid get back to a better frame of mind. So I think that really there ought to be a broad palette of approaches that we can use, and I think we're investigating as many of those as we can. But we can always, I think, push a little further in that direction, because I feel your question, because my kids have had the same issue where there was a disruption and things kind of shut down, and that's really no good for them. Really, talk about learning loss.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with both of you guys. I do think that there should be something in school though for some kind of disciplinary action. I think that a lot of parents do not hold their kids accountable the way that they should. And they don't learn anything and they come back and do the same thing over and over again and it's disruptive to all the other students, so.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Lloyd McClung. I live in Alpena. I'm thinking about the curriculum that is taught in our public schools. Where does that curriculum come from? And do you have any influence on the curriculum to make it better?
So I don't actually know where it comes from. That's a fair question. But I do know that last year they voted on a new curriculum for the ALS, or ELA. And I know that they have started seeing improvements already with the scores on that. They did introduce a new curriculum for math as well. And it's too soon to see those statistics, to see that going up. But no, I'm not sure exactly where it comes from though. But I do see the board taking measures to make the curriculum better.
I can,
Go ahead, Eric.
I can add to that. Yeah, we, again, that is one of our statutory duties, is to set the curriculum. So if you've got companies like Scholastic, for example, or what they'll do is they'll make a pitch to the administration. And when we looked at that ELA curriculum, there was a committee of a lot of teachers and some of the board members, were able to sit in to get a perspective on what was going on. And then once they have sort of hashed over what they think is the right one, they'll bring that to the board. And the board, if it, I think, feels they understand the curriculum and what it's good for, they will generally approve it. I think, though, that the board does have some power, if they are dissatisfied with the curriculum, to say, you know what, we are going to go back and look at another one, because that is within our wheelhouse, as they say. But yes, you're right, that's something we can do.
Okay, as a follow-up, I remember now that there was a new curriculum approved, and I was wondering, why was that curriculum thought to be better than what we were doing before? And this thing about grade creep kind of what worries me, that in the paper you got, everybody's getting the honor roll, and it seemed like, gee whiz, everybody's a whiz bang in school. Come on now, that can't be. It seems like, has grade creep become a reality that just nothing can be done about it? I mean, come on, because average is no longer average, it's excellent.
I don't have anything to add to it really, because that's the thing, I'm not really sure what the curriculum is right now, so I don't really have anything else to add.
Well, in following up to that, I can tell you that there are state standards that we do have, the curriculum does have to meet. And so, of course, anybody who's proposing a curriculum to us, they will dig into that very, very deeply. As far as grade creep, that's not exactly a board question, so I would have to defer to our professional staff and administration to really address that. I know people have concerns about it, but I would probably just, if you were to come and give public comment and ask that question, you wouldn't get an answer in public comment at the meeting, but it might be something that we could have a presentation on or discussion about later. And I think it's a very interesting question.
Thank you.
My name is Bruce Heath, and I live in Alpena. And on the thought of curriculum, let me think about bringing in a civics class and a constitutional class from Hillsdale College. That wouldn't cost the taxpayers a dime, and actually teach our students how government is supposed to be run. Because we're woefully not teaching our children how this whole thing is supposed to operate. Therefore, they have no clue what's going on.
I would be completely for it. I'd be completely for it. I think that those would be a great idea to have. I really do.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea too. When I went to high school, we had those classes offered to us. I took them both, and learned a lot and very informative. All the kids should know.
Eric, on that subject, and I bounce off of his question, you mentioned that the proposal is given to administration and you might participatory or not, what kind of outside influence is there? Couldn't our system develop its own, choose its own independently of, for example, the Hillsdale program is fairly well defined.
Oh, yes, sure, yeah. I'd have to look into that and see how that would work. But yes, we can adopt curricula, and if somebody's got one that we like, sure. I don't see why we couldn't. And to that question, there was something somebody said that I thought was interesting. I feel like, I guess, my kids, when I grilled them about what they're learning and whatnot, I feel like we are a little light on history and certainly on civics, because I think you can't expect young people to know and understand the system that we have. For example, if you go out into the public and you say, hey, are we living in a democracy? A lot of people say, oh yeah, we have a democracy. Not really. We live in a constitutional republic with a style of government that is democratic representation, but we live in a constitutional republic. And I think if kids get out of school without understanding that, we haven't quite done our jobs. And I think generally in history, maybe we're pushing some things a little bit too late. For example, my daughter this summer, we were talking about the history of Europe and things that had gone on, and my daughter said, Dad, who's this Hitler that people keep talking about?
Oh.
And she was in 7th grade, and she didn't know who Hitler was. And yet there is a political candidate that is very kind of constantly called Hitler. But I think, if our young people don't know who actual Hitler was and what he did, then that's really we're not doing them a service. They don't really understand the context of the discussions that they're hearing.
Thank you. I guess that's the point.
My name is Julie Usher, and I'm actually a retired teacher for 15 years in Alpena Public Schools. And I'm not sure, but as I remember, the state makes the curriculum. And as a teacher, it is our job, it is when we sign our contract, that we must follow the state standards. And everything that we teach must agree with that. The state decides that, so we as teachers do not. And then the materials that are selected go with that state curriculum. So the board then looks at that curriculum, as I think Eric said, and then decides, is that what we want to use to do the standard that we are expected to teach. Sorry, that wasn't a question, I was just answering.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you. All right. I wasn't going to call you on it.
If I might then,
Thank you, by the way, though that's helpful, you have been in the battle, so.
if I could respond to that, though.
Yes, go ahead.
I think I have more to add. So yes, the state standards tell us what we must cover. So those things, we cannot drop the ball. But if we want to go above and beyond that, there's no reason we couldn't. They don't tell us everything that we have to. They just tell us you must cover these subjects, and so you have to check all those boxes, which is very helpful because it helps our staff create a curriculum and find what they need. When they look at, so for example, if Scholastic wants to do business in Michigan in the area of social studies, it's got to tick all those boxes, and that's one of the things our staff checks for when they're looking at that. So that doesn't necessarily tie our hands, but it does give us a baseline that we must meet. That's correct.
Thank you. You got it, Paul.
When the school was examining the curriculum, was there any parental involvement to help you examine the curriculum, or is it just happening inside the school system? Because if you had, I think that you've had outside people, just parents involved in selecting the curriculum, you might get a different perspective as well.
I don't recall there being parents present, but I can't say that they weren't somehow involved. I'm just not aware if they were.
Eric, since you've been on the front line, some of these questions are pointed at you, and I don't want to ignore these other.
You're fine, yeah, you're fine.
So,
Yeah, we should take your time.
jump on, kids, if you got some thoughts. So, Tim, you had a second question you wanted to ask.
What benefit is the school board to the people of Alpena?
Gosh. I might need to take a minute on that one. Just do so many things.
Repeat the question.
Yeah.
Maybe I could give it some context. What would we do without you?
What benefit is the school board to the people of Alpena?
I mean, really, to me, it's everything, and that's why I'm running. I mean, our children are everything. Like, these kids, our mission is to get them through school so they can grow up and succeed in life and be active, participating members of society. So the school board, I believe, is one of the most important things for our community because we make such big decisions for our children. We're making decisions on their academics, we're making decisions on their safety, we're making decisions for who they're spending all their time with during the day. So I think if I'm answering your question the way you want me to answer it, that's what I think the impact on the community is.
Sarah, this would come to Sarah.
Yeah, what I think the benefit of the school board is it's a great opportunity for the community to get involved. I mean, look at all of us up here. We have a PA, we have Dr. Lawson, music.
Whatever he does.
Yeah, he does music. And then I am a stay-at-home mom of 6 kids. We all bring something different to the table. We all have different ideas. We come with different beliefs, but we have the common interest that we are here to see the best of the children and to give them the best start in life and really help them to succeed. So I think that's what the benefit of it is, and we're elected by you guys. I mean, by the community. You guys pick who you want in it. So no, it's a mixed bag of people. It's not the same people. It's not all teachers. It's not all administrative. It's different. It's different ideas and different outlooks on life.
Thank you. Harold?
Yeah, according to Michigan law, including Public Act 451, the powers and duties of a school board are to educate students, provide for their safety and welfare, acquire and dispose of school property, determine matters relating to school employees and contractors, control expenditure and receipt of school funds, make agreements, set the curricula and courses, employ a superintendent, levy taxes and adopt a budget, make decisions on transportation, negotiate salaries and conditions of employment. So that's what your school board is charged with doing statutorily. I also believe that the value of a school board is that they are your elected representatives. And this is why it really bothered me when I first got on the board, the president of the board got talking with the legal advisor at Michigan Association of School Boards. And they had their little conversation, and then we were sent a quote which stated that MASB didn't believe that we really needed to represent anyone because as trustees, we could just kind of do whatever we thought was right. And in a sense that may be true because you can't represent every single person, but I believe very strongly that before I got on the board, there was a huge portion of the community that was unrepresented. And so I went in there and I let them know, I'm here to represent those people who feel they have no voice. This did not sit well with the board, but I kept doing it. I will continue to keep doing it because I believe in it. I'm elected for a reason. I'm not appointed by the governor or any other person. I'm elected by you all, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dale Fritz, and I live in Alpena. There were a lot of discussion in there about the functions of the school board beyond, that of being a parent, and things such as the construction and maintenance, any of these things where you have to vote on. I want to know what do experience each one of you have that fits for something like that.
Is there a question? Let me say it one more time.
What experience are you bringing to the table that fits in that area other than just throwing out a vote?
What experience are you bringing to the table? Is that correct, Mr. Fritz? Yes. besides just voting? I think they explained that, but go ahead, clarify for him. You've already given your experiences, so but go ahead.
Okay, I mean, I honestly think, and as Sarah was kind of saying, the fact that our board is so diverse, I think it makes us even stronger, because something I might not have experience in, or I might have no idea about, Mr. Lawson might know, or Eric Hansen might know, or AJ MacArthur might know. I know when they were doing a lot of negotiations with the contracting, AJ was very helpful with that. As far as I go, I'm a mom, so I have a lot of experience with small children right now. As a PA and working in the medical profession, we did just come out of COVID, so I think if anything like that did happen again, I think that I would have a lot of experience there and be able to help at least with the health aspect of our students. As far as construction goes, I truly don't, besides on my own home. But like I said, I think that if there's something that I don't know, I'm going to go out and try to find out as much as I possibly can about it before making my decisions.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, we, as school board members, we don't need to try to run the school. We have professional staff and a superintendent who do that. So thankfully, a lot of that, as far as the nitty-gritty, really isn't something that we have to deal with. But we are a policy board, and so we make decisions about policy. And so when our staff bring us decisions that we have to vote on, we understand the impact on the organization that policy or approach will have. Personally, I have done a lot of different kinds of things. I was a commissioner for almost 4 years, from 2013 to 2016. I chaired the Salary and Personnel Committee, so I have some expertise in that area. I negotiated 5 union contracts while I did that job. I'm also on the Northeast Michigan Community Mental Health Authority Board. That's an organization with a budget about $30 million that the board has to oversee. And I'm also on the Northern Michigan Regional Entity Board, which is the parent board, which takes, it's what they call a PIHP, a prepaid inpatient health plan. And it takes the money from the state and then distributes it to the various authorities in that region. So that's about a $260 million budget. So personally, I have some experience with budgets and the managing and the oversight, which we take very seriously. But yes, on our own board in Alpena School District, thank goodness for AJ MacArthur, because yes, he knows a great deal about construction, but then when we get to other issues, then sometimes those are in my wheelhouse or somebody else, you know, who might have expertise in that area. So a diverse board is definitely a strength.
Thank you.
As far as my experience goes, I'm a mom. I spend a lot of time with children. Like I said, I spend a lot of time at All Saints. I am the head coach of the robotics team, and I know how to get things done, even when I don't actually know what I'm doing. But also, I mean, my husband and I, we had a crazy idea 2 summers ago to build our own house, and neither of us knew anything about construction. My husband's a doctor. I am, again, stay-at-home mom. But we set our mind to it, and 9 months after we broke ground on our log cabin, we moved into it. I am very ambitious. I want to learn. I want to do the best that I can, and that's my
Thank you, thank you. So versified is the right word here.
Yeah.
Right, Monica?
My name is Noni Muller, and I live in Alpena, and I'm a retired nurse and did mental health as well as medical nursing. But the thing that keeps coming back to me, and I have not been in the Alpena schools, we've only been in this lovely town for 5 years. Are there pop machines and candy machines in the schools?
I guess that's a question, well, anyone of you know. Machines for pop and candy, are they in the school system buildings?
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sugar
We
is.
have one in our shop too, by the way, which disturbs me.
Yeah.
I guess the answer is yes.
Yeah, all of the disruptive behavior can be correlated with the amount of sugar, food additives, artificial sweeteners, coloring, etc., and the low nutritional content of food. I don't know what's served in the cafeteria, but that's a concern that I have. It goes, I'll stop there.
Thank you. Thoughts about any of you about that issue?
No.
It is a big deal today. We're talking about health nationally.
Yeah.
So it's appropriate for us to give some thought to what our kids are consuming.
No, I agree. I think the less pop and sugar that we can have for these kids is, we definitely have to look at that. That would be something I would definitely want to look at if I was on the board. The other thing I want to bring up, and it might be a little bit off subject from that, is the lunches. I'd also like to take a look at these free lunches. Because since I'm at the high school, my clinic's at the high school, I get to see everything. And with these free lunches, which I do agree with, these kids need to eat. They're not going to learn if they're hungry. They need to eat. But the thing is, they're given options of 4 items. They have to take 3 of them. And you know what happens to a majority of a couple of the items? They're going right in the garbage. So the amount of waste with this food, the food that we're giving out, is through the roof. I've talked to the lunch ladies, same thing, they watch it go right in the garbage. So breakfast and lunch both, there's a certain number of items. I don't know if there's something that we can do to try to cut down on the waste, but that was a big one for me that I want to look at if I do get elected.
Thank you. Any other comments on food and nutrition?
I actually just want to give a shout out to our school staff. My youngest daughter has serious issues. She's had very serious issues with her health. Right now she's doing well, but she can't eat gluten, for example. And our staff has really gone above and beyond to make sure that she has food that she can eat. And I just am very grateful for our staff for helping to make sure that she doesn't go hungry just for lack of food that's safe for her to eat. So that's about all I have to say on that. If you want to talk about screen time and devices in school, we can talk about that too, because that's a big issue, but I don't have anything else to say on health food.
Sarah, thoughts?
I agree that it should be limited and not accessible in the schools. But I would also like to say that mental illness is a real deal, especially with our youth of today, along those lines. But I also have to say that Monica up here, I mean, it's so great. She's such a perfect person to advocate for these kids because she sees these kids, she sees the mental illness that they're dealing with, and they're comfortable with her, and she can really add ways to help the community, these kids with their mental health, especially Eric too, being the chair of the Northeast Michigan Community Mental Health. I mean, these are 2 great people up here to be on our board to help with our mental illness that is taking over our youth.
Thank you.
Do you know if there's any requirement to have the transgender issue in the public schools? Is there a requirement for those who use the opposite sex's bathroom, for example, that identify as the opposite gender or a different gender than they're born with?
The question is, do you know? Clarify the question. What's your specific question?
Basically, for students that use the opposite gender bathroom, is there any requirement for them to identify as the opposite gender?
Oh, right. Do they have to identify themselves to do that?
I'm not sure.
There may not be a program, I don't know, because that's the question.
I can't speak to that. Yes, there is a requirement that they identify and that their school records will be changed to reflect that. So you can't, now when this all first started happening, it was a bit of a free-for-all. And you know, we all have heard stories, well, not really stories, confirmed reports, really, about problems from having these kids mixing in the bathrooms. But in Alpena, what we're doing is they have to identify, and it will go into their school records, and it'll be changed. So they can't just change willy-nilly from day to day. So that is the status of that as far as my understanding.
Thank you.
Just to add on to that, okay, do they have
one-person bathrooms where they can go in, people, where they can go use it as one person, lock the door, and then come out.
All the houses at the high school do. And there is also a unisex bathroom down by campus closet.
So that would take.
So there is, yeah.
Any other questions? I've got one before you close out. Can I do this?
I think we
I
have
think
one.
you do have one.
Good. Like that.
I'm taking some liberties.
Okay.
Is
We
there
have-
another question? Go
Yeah,
ahead,
I think
go
so.
ahead. Yes, take care first.
Curb out years ago, just a comment, the parent teachers organization was very working with the school system. And you look tonight, right here, how many actual parents is in this class, here in this room? The parents have got to get involved. I would say that 90% of the people here do not have a student in the school system.
I'd be pretty close. We are grandparents, does that count? What, you want to answer that? No, go ahead, but there's another question right there. Mike, that lady.
In the Alpena School District, is there actually a parent-teacher association for parents to go to and work with teachers? There used to be years ago.
I know that a few of the schools have PTOs.
A few of the elementaries.
Yeah. But I
Do
don't,
they get involved in anything anymore? I mean, most of us here are grandparents, so we're getting involved, but where are the parents?
I can't speak for Alpena. I know All Saints has an amazing PTO group, and we're extremely active there. I know some of the elementary schools have PTO groups, but I'm not sure.
I
My
could,
name is Jan, and I just have one response to that. I know for a fact I have grandchildren at Besser. Very, very involved PTO organization. Their parents are absolutely wonderful. And I do work like their field day every year. But the mom is also there. I'm working with my daughter. It's all parents that are there. So I know at that school, I can't vouch for the other ones, but I'm assuming that they are all doing really well with that. It's offered, it's there for them.
Thank you, excellent.
I'm wondering, are any of you going to the League of Women Voters forum? This one, there's, I know, maybe the other candidates wouldn't have felt so welcome to be here with the tensions, which really are political. And why or why not would you attend the League of Women Voters forum?
I have no idea when the League of Women Voters are. I've heard of 3 dates. I got a phone call and Dottie called, said October 1st, we're having a forum. I told her, well, earlier that day I heard about this forum going on and I already made plans to attend it. She was gonna call me back. She called me back the next day and re-invited me again to the 1st. And since then I haven't seen anything. I believe I saw something on Facebook about the 14th. So as far as that, I've not been contacted.
Thank you.
I can respond to that too. I thought it was lovely how hard they worked to accommodate everybody. In my own case, the last date that I was given, I have activities, teaching activities, and because I'm only going every other week because of my chemo, I didn't feel like I could skip out on that.
and I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure out my schedule, everything that's going on in our life. But I would like to say that I don't think it's actually a political issue. I think that we're all here to help the children, and I don't think that politics should be involved in this.
Thank you. Any other question? Another one?
The dates of all of that has been in the paper more than once, and I have read them. So I know that they're there. If you look in Alpena News, if you read that, the dates are there for you to look. Sorry, that's not a question.
Maybe we don't read the Alpena news. Any other questions for the panel? As I said, I had one question I was going to ask. This is a 2023 data. In math, Michigan ranks 36th. I think there are 50 states now, or whatever the number is. I didn't have history. And in reading, we rank 41st. I would like to think that the Alpena public school system should be the very best in Michigan and nationally. There's no reason why we couldn't be. We're spending the money, $15 million a year, give or take, 14,000 a student, give or take, plus buildings. Is that a possibility? Is that something that any of you think is even directionally correct?
I can respond to that. I think it's possible, yes. We have a wonderful staff. I really like, for example, how they have gotten the kids involved in Imagine Math. And you may have read in the paper different times there'll be a school that ranks first in Imagine Math, or whatever ranking. We're doing very well in some of those, and those are stimulating. The kids like doing it. So we have some initiatives that are really pulling us along. I think that the learning loss during COVID hit everybody. Of course, it hit everybody relatively equally, so I don't think it changed a lot of districts wildly as far as where they, or districts or states where they were. But I do know that we're looking at all of that. And right now, for example, there's a graphic that we looked at the other day in our meeting, and it was color-coded, so you could see each cohort, as these kids go from 3rd down to 4th grade, they're still red, their color is red. These kids who started out in 4th grade, they're green, and you can track them as you go and see how they're doing. That was very interesting. But at the same time, we have every grade, as the new students come into that grade, they're doing better. So we're seeing improvements. So we're digging out of the hole, but it's a long road. And I don't know that there's any magic bullet for it, but I will say this. I was thrilled to bits one day when our superintendent said that they had been doing instructional rounds, and they had found a teacher at Ella White who was doing a very traditional sort of going around the room and helping each student, one-on-one, and this teacher was getting really exemplary results in the classroom on standardized tests. And so the superintendent, without making anybody embarrassed and without saying, hey, you're dog food because you don't do as well. No. But the idea was to take these things that are working and make them values, make them something that the whole district wants to pursue. And I was just thrilled to bits with that, and I think that we're on the right track.
That's good to hear. Other thoughts about the?
Well, I think Alpena has a excellent potential to be better than what we are, and I think we need to keep striving for that. Growing up in this community and being part of APS through my whole education, I want only the best for our students. I mean, my kids are going to be going there in a couple of years. And I just think if we can start communicating better, if we can start working together better, I think we need to support each other. Like I said, communication is key, I think, on a lot of things. But we have excellent staff, we have excellent teachers. I think we just need to all work together the best that we can, and I think we can do it.
Thank you. I agree.
Yeah, and I absolutely believe that we can too. But I think that what we can do to help is definitely more support for the teachers and the staff, and I do know that there are PTOs for the schools as well, but also see other parent involvement as well. Really see parents get more involved with their children's education. I think that is lacking a lot in the public schools.
Thank you all. Go ahead.
Rob Golding from Alpena. Dr. Lawson, you mentioned COVID several times. As I sit here, I'm irritated because I was at a meeting before this and they mentioned COVID. I mean, it's over 5 years ago. At what point are we going to quit blaming this on COVID? We have to move on from this COVID thing. Again, it's 5 years ago, and all I hear is, I believe we're making an excuse. if we can't move on from COVID from 5 years ago, what are we gonna do? So, do you believe in that? I mean, you mentioned that several times tonight, and I just sit here going, you must believe that, and so 10 years from now, are you still gonna say COVID?
Okay, so yeah, let me be clear. I do believe that it caused a great deal of damage to this generation, academically and socially. I mean, like, I'm sure that people had this thought, but that the fact that we didn't figure out what to do about it kind of bothers me. But who thought that this was going to turn out well? To just basically send the kids home to a house that was empty because the parents are at work and let the children be raised by the internet. Who thought that was going to work out well? Nobody. Certainly not I. I mean, my kids were lucky because I was able to be at home and be there with them. I cooked them. I was the cafeteria cook, and the after school coach and tutor. So that was great. But a lot of kids didn't have that. This is why it's so serious. I don't believe that you can just bounce back from something like that easily. That's why it's so grave. And it's also why we should never do it again. But I think that, when we look at the issues with the learning loss from that, I don't want to beat up these kids and say, well, why don't you just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do better? I mean, it was what it was for them. And same thing for the teachers. This was not good for the teachers either. So I want to beat the teachers over the head and say, why don't you do better? Well, my class was gone and I had to teach on this darn little device, So I don't want to blame people when they're working hard to try to rectify it. But believe you me, I don't have any illusions about the gravity of the situation. And I want to see us dig out of this, but I don't know that there's a magic bullet. So I'm just trying to be practical and realistic.
Thank you.
I would like to add something to that. When COVID hit, my daughter was in kindergarten. And when you're in kindergarten, you're learning to write. You're learning all your letters. You're learning, by the end of the year, you have to write a paragraph. It makes no sense, but it's a few sentences. And she's in 5th grade now. And I have to say that it was a lot of her fellow classmates. They're just now getting to where they should be. It took a while for them. It was a very important year. A lot of kids felt the same way. But they are getting back to where they were, or they're supposed to be at this age. But it did take, I've definitely seen it in my daughter's class and with my daughter. She's there now, but it took a while. It was a struggle, especially leaving kindergarten.
Yeah, I add on to Sarah too. My oldest also went through that, and it's taken a long time to completely come back from that because what they lost was so instrumental. And believe me, I am so tired of hearing about COVID and using an excuse, and I don't want to hear about it anymore. But the fact is, though, it has caused a lot of damage to our children, to their learning, their academics. The other thing that I will say that I've seen, the amount of prescriptions for antidepressants and anxiety that I have given for children has gone through the roof. And I am by no means a pill pusher. And it is so sad to see that. And the amount of kids that come into my clinic, I truly did not know what I was walking into when I started at where I am right now. We have the kids all fill out a PHQ-9 for depression when they come into the clinic. I would say probably about half the kids that come in either for knee pain, stuffy nose, whatever, I have to stop the appointment and we got to talk about something because last week they might have been suicidal. So COVID has had such a dramatic effect on these kids as far as psychiatrically and depression, and I truly believe that has then also rolled over academically. So this is going to take a while to fully come back from. I don't like it, but it's taken a long time.
I think we learned a lot of what not to do for the next pandemic.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. That was excellent. We've learned a lot. One more. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Dziesinski.
If a teacher decides that a student isn't ready for the next grade, do they have the right to keep him back, or can the parents push that kid through?
I would not know that. Are they able to push
My understanding is that there's a review and the parents are notified. Typically they don't hold them back. They try to work with the parent and the student to keep that student with their peers. If push came to shove, do they have the right to hold that kid back? Boy, I don't know that happens a lot. They probably do, but again, that's kind of out of my 60,000-foot view. So I would defer to our administrative staff on that question. But I do know that they work with the parents and students a lot because they really want to keep those kids with their peers because that's can be a very traumatic thing, being held back a grade. So I know that there are a lot of things that happen, and that decision would never be made lightly.
Okay, why don't we take a few minutes and let each of them share their final thoughts? And then we can be here a little bit long to visit, but we've got about 15 minutes and they're going to lock us in the building, and this is not a good place to sleep. So go ahead, Sarah, would you begin?
I guess I don't even know really what to say. But
Any thoughts that you picked up tonight?
yeah, no, I really don't. I hope that you guys got a chance to know more of where I stand, the school board and the community. I do really feel the need, well, I feel that I do generally want to serve this community and I can make it better. And I will try my hardest to make it better for not only my children, but the children of APS. All of these children deserve that. All these children deserve that. And yeah, I just want to see them all succeed and have the best outcome that they can.
Thank you very much. Eric?
First I want to say that I believe we have an excellent staff at APS. Things are improving, and I do believe that in the wake of the learning loss and social disasters of COVID, that we are on a better path. And I'm proud of our teachers and administrators for taking seriously the hole out of which we have to dig. I believe they're working diligently to that end. There is some hope on the horizon that through regime change and appellate review of cases decided by activist judges, we may be able to untangle some of the messes that we're in, particularly in the area of social policies which are confusing, disorienting, and hurting our kids. Acknowledging these challenges and my efforts as a school board member to address these challenges intelligently and specifically, the overarching thrust of my work as a member of the APS Board of Education so far could be summed up actually with a question. And you probably noticed, you heard this earlier in my comments. Which is more political and partisan? To push novel and experimental agendas on children, or to resist these partisan initiatives? Just because you don't use the word Republican or Democrat doesn't mean that you aren't behaving in a highly, highly partisan way. And if somebody holds an opinion that's different than yours, it doesn't mean it's partisan. It does not necessarily mean that. I think that's a kind of projection. If you know that you have a very highly partisan point of view you got from your party, and somebody doesn't agree with you, well, they must be being political. Sometimes we just disagree, particularly as we amass fact after fact that many of the things that we were told we had to do were not good. It's not unreasonable to say, you know what, we're going to look at that a little more closely rather than just dive in. So I'll say it again, a little differently. I believe I was hired by you, the people, to resist a partisan agenda, not to push one. Now, is that just being negative? Lawson says no to everything. He's just negative. Maybe, but so what? We can talk in good faith about a lot of different ways that we can protect and educate our children. And we do. If you go to school board meetings, you'll see that we do this. But we must be willing to utter a righteous no to stop agendas which hurt children. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Monica?
So my closing, I just want one more final thought before I kind of get into the closing that I didn't touch on. Tonight was the safety of the students. That's one of my top priorities also as a school board member. We have a resource officer in the high school. He's there part-time right now. His salary comes half from the city police and half from APS. I really, really would like to see more partnership in expanding that program to see if we can get some more officers between the junior high and within the elementary schools. That is super important for me to look into. So I was picking his brain a few days, and that would be something that I'd like to see if we can expand. But anyways, I just hope that you guys got to know all of us tonight, and thank you for having us tonight. If anyone has any questions after, I'll be around. Feel free to ask anything, but I really feel passionate about this position, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. It took me a few months to actually really think about it and to sit down with my husband and have some tough conversations, because that's what a big deal this is to me. So I really hope in November you'll support me. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Sarah. You're free.